Ready to work on question 4? Open up your Excel file and make sure you're on the data spreadsheet page. We're going to be working with the responses to question 4. And first we're just going to count up how many of each response there are. So we're starting out using the old pivot table method. So click on the first response to question 4 and go ahead and select all 75 responses and then go to Insert, Pivot Table, click OK, click the button next to Time Spent, and pull that down into the Values box. Now we have a bit of a problem here because there are 2 different entries for 16 to 20 and 2 different entries for 6 to 10. And that's because when I was typing some of my data in, I went and formatted it differently for some of the responses I typed in compared to what was already in the spreadsheet. Some of them had spaces that others didn't. So I could go back and fix that in my main data spreadsheet, or the easier thing to do is just mentally add them together. So 1 to 5, I got 8 of those. 8 people said 1 to 5. Then both of these should be counted for 6 to 10. There's 1 plus 22, so that's 23. Now I'm going to be writing these numbers in the spaces on the printed instructions, or you could just write them down on a scratched piece of paper, but we want to keep track of what those counts are. So I'm seeing 8 for 1 to 5, 1 plus 22, which is 23 for 6 to 10. Then there's 10 who said 11 to 15. There's 1 plus 15, so 16, 16 to 20. And then 18, 21 to 25. Now I'm going to just relabel this page as Q4 pivot. I'm not going to be doing anything more with this particular page or sheet, but this will remind me what this was. Now, click on over to the amount of time page. And we're going to fill in the 5 boxes in this frequency column with the numbers I wrote down that I got from that pivot table. So remember we said 1 to 5 was 8, 6 to 10 was 23, 11 to 15 was 10, 16 to 20 was 16, 21 to 25 was 18. Now, click down here below those in cell E8, and we're going to make sure you're in the Home tab, but go up here and find where it says Auto Sum, and just click on that, and then hit Enter on your keyboard. And that automatically adds up all of these numbers in this column and puts the result here, and it should say 75. If it doesn't say 75, then somehow these got counted wrong. And all of these cells, they should already be centered. Notice that each number is in the very center of the cell, horizontally and vertically. But if it doesn't look like that, go in and fix that with these centering buttons. Now we're going to fill in the cumulative frequencies. So you can add this manually and just type in the numbers, or you can have Excel do the adding for you. So if you want Excel to do it, click in cell F3 and just type equals E3. Then in cell F4, click in equals E3 plus E4. Then in the next one down, F5, click in equals E3 plus E4 plus E5. Then the next one down would be equal to E3 plus E4 plus E5 plus E6. And the last one should be equal to E3 plus E4 plus E5 plus E6 plus E7. And that should be the same 75 that you got down here. So you got 8 plus 23 is 31, plus 10 is 41, plus 16 is 57, plus 15 is 75. Of course, your numbers might not be the same as mine. But whatever numbers yours are, you should have the right cumulative frequencies here. And I'm going to go ahead and save my work at this point, just in case something happens so that I don't lose what I've done so far. Now we're at the top of the second page of the instructions. We're ready to complete this second table over here. So we're going to find the midpoints. And that's another thing that you could just do yourself and type in the actual numbers. But if you want Excel to do that for you, we can click in cell H3 here and type equals parenthesis B3 plus B3 close parentheses divided by 2. So I asked Excel to take this number here, which is 1, plus this number here, which is 5, add them together and divide by 2, and that gave you the midpoint that was halfway between the 1 and the 5, which of course is 3. And if I did it that way, then I can just copy that formula down by clicking the little tiny green box down here in the corner and dragging down through the rest of these rows and releasing, and it gives me the rest of the midpoints, 8, 13, 18, and 23. Now, in this column, I want to fill in these with the frequency times the midpoint. Remember, the frequency is the number over here. The midpoint is the number here. So I'm going to click in cell I3 and type equals E3 times H3. And times is the asterisk. On most keyboards, you would get that by holding down the Shift and then the 8 button. And when I hit Enter, it gives me the result of that calculation. The number in E3, which for my spreadsheet is 8, times the number in H3, which is 3, and that gave me 24. And now I'm going to just copy that formula down into those other cells. And down below there, in I8, I'm going to use that auto sum feature again. So click in I8, click up here where it says auto sum, hit enter. So that automatically adds up those 5 numbers and gives you the sum or the total right there. Now we need to fill in the frequency times midpoint squared column. So I'm going to click in cell J3 and type equals E3 times H3 squared. So that's E3, then the asterisk, then H3, then the caret, the up pointy thing that you get from Shift 6, and then 2. So that's the number in E3 times the number in H3 to the second power, that is squared. So when I hit enter, it does that calculation. For me, it came out to be 72, because 8 times 3 squared, 8 times 9 is 72. You might get a different number, but now we're going to copy that down to the rest of those blank cells. So there's all the frequency times midpoint squared numbers. And then click in J8, go up here and click auto sum, hit enter. Now we're going to find the measures down here, the mean, the variance, the standard deviation, and so forth. So to calculate the mean, click here in cell G10 and type equals I8 divided by E8. So notice that's the letter I, not the number 1, but the letter I. So I8, and then the slash for divided, and then E8 Notice that Excel sort of highlighted those boxes, those cells. So we're taking the number here in I8 divided by the number here in E8, and that's the mean. Remember, how you find the mean for group data is you take the sum of the frequency times midpoint column and you divide by the total frequency. So that's what we did here. And I'm going to adjust it so that it only shows one digit after the decimal point. So I'm going to click on that and then go up here and click the decrease decimal button until there's only one digit showing after the decimal point, so that the mean is displayed rounded to the nearest 10. Now for the variance, I'm going to click in cell G11, and I'm going to type equals parenthesis J8 minus I8 squared divided by E8, close parentheses, divided by parenthesis E8 minus 1, close parentheses. So that's parenthesis, letter J, number 8, minus letter I, number 8, caret 2 slash E8, close parentheses, slash parenthesis E8 minus 1, close parentheses. Hit equals, hit enter, and it calculated the variance. For me, it was 47.55. For you, it's maybe another number. And now the standard deviation is going to be the square root of that number. So I'm going to be in cell G12, and I'm going to type equals SQRT parenthesis G11, close parentheses. So I'm asking it for the square root of the number in cell G11, which was the variance. So that showed up as 6.90, and I'm going to decrease the decimal so it only shows one digit after the decimal point. So now it's showing as 6.9. These should be centered, and size 11. You shouldn't have to adjust that, but if you do, you can click on them and click the centering button or whatever else you need to adjust. For the range, we'll click in cell G3 and just type 1 to 25. Now, hopefully that won't interpret that as a date like January 25th or something. Hopefully it's already formatted to be text. But if it isn't, if you type in 125 and it tries to show it as a date like January 25th, then you have to go up here in this little box and select text, and then maybe go back and type it in again. Now in cell G14, we're going to type the modal class. So look at your classes and figure out which one has the highest frequency. For me, it's 6 to 10. For you, it might be a different one. And then type in what that modal class is for you, whether it's 6 to 10 or one of the others. Fill that in cell G14. So I'm going to save my work. And right now I'm going to pause. And then I'll come back in another video and we'll create the histogram based on this frequency distribution.